rationale as to why they're learning it that day and why they might need it later. Additionally, really reiterating with them that grades are not necessarily the entire purpose of school. We want to be learning things and becoming better people as part of it. Secondly, something that's been really good for me has been giving a lot more student choice in how they're actually learning it or how they're actually showing me that they learned it. You know, some students, I get really excited about students making videos. A lot of mine hate doing that. Others love them. Same with posters. You assign a poster. Some of them are like, yes, finally I can do this hands-on poster. Others might say, you know what, I really, really don't like that. And then some, I've got one student in particular that anytime I give them anything that's project-based, the kid's like, can you please just test me to show that I know this? So sometimes I have a test waiting for him. I'm going to bring up a link for you really fast just to give you an example of how exactly I do this. So when it comes to student choice and motivating them, like I said, I give them options. This is just a lot of learning objectives, what the driving question is, and what I hope that they do. And then I lay it out for them. This is actually a student who completed this, that we talk about what they need to learn, how are they going to learn it, and then they get to personally, just other than one assignment, they can decide how they actually show me that they learn it. And I found overall, when you give a group of students the opportunity to choose one of those things, I've gotten a higher rate of students actually seeming to be excited about it. Because I have some students that, like, I've got this group of 3 boys who is all about making videos. So as soon as I give them the option of making a YouTube video, they're all about it. But I have others who are not so excited about it. So I get a lot of poster makers too. Now, if I had said everybody has to do a YouTube video, or I had said everybody needs to do a poster, I would have had a lot less excitement and probably a lot more complaints from my students. So this has been something that's been really effective for me, and I'd be happy to share this with you if it comes down to it. So additionally, like I said, I have felt that students being able to own and say, this is how I'm going to show you what I'm learning, has really increased their motivation to actually do the work. And that's just from using it over these last couple weeks. Additionally, skip one. I was just talking to Dr. Rice about this. The biggest thing that I've taken from my, so far, you know, however many days I've been teaching, how many months in my first year of teaching, is some of the students who are the most unmotivated, and I know you've heard this before, you know, the ones that teachers talk about in the teacher's lounge, the ones that you know on a behavior log, or the ones that are constantly getting in trouble or whatever it may be. As the ag teacher, you tend to have the opportunity to see them in a different light. And I've seen in my classroom that students who I know have failed classes before and that sort of thing, they come in my room and maybe they're not the A student, but they actually will do work when I assign it to them because they trust me, they know that I care, and I'm not just doing it because I felt like doing it that day, because I really think it's something positive for them. Additionally, some of these things I'm talking about kind of cross over into classroom management, and I kind of think motivation and that management goes hand in hand. But part of that comes from with showing them you care. You can't be their best friend. You shouldn't be their best friend. You should be consistent in how you're actually not only disciplining them, but talking with them, but making sure you're being personable. Have routines, but make sure you're also taking the time to ask them about their day. Ask them what they think about an assignment, because teenagers very often, more often than not, are going to be very, very honest with you without realizing it might hurt your feelings. So if you really want good feedback, make sure you're asking them that sort of thing. Now this next one, it very much might vary for a lot of you depending on what the cell phone policy is in your school. Here at Clark Central, we have an open cell phone policy. It's completely up to the teacher what they would like to do with this. I'll tell you firsthand, I'm a huge advocate for allowing students to have their cell phone and use it. However, I still right now I'm dealing with issues with students being on their cell phone that I'm trying to work through. So my biggest issue and the biggest thing I'm trying to do is teaching them personal responsibility. To the best of my ability, I ask them if they want to take it out. If they finish their do now, they take it out, and then they can put their cell phone down on their desk face down when I'm either giving them directions, lecturing for a short period of time, or they're doing work. I give them the opportunity, if they're working independently, to go ahead and take it out. Make sure you're flexible with them and show them what it means to give and take a little bit. So if you tell them, one thing I do with one of my classes where it is a drastic issue for them to work on their work versus Snapchatting their friend in the next classroom, is doing a timer. I'll give them 20 to 25 minutes. I'll say, let's focus on this and let's do this. And for the most part, wherever I am in this lesson or wherever you are, you can pause and I'll give you a minute to check what you want to do. They can check, do that sort of thing, and then get back to work. modeling it myself, I try my best not to be answering emails, texting people, all that sort of thing while I'm working with the students. I just try and keep it away, and that sort of thing. And just making sure you're modeling for them the best thing that you can do. And bouncing off of that, this really is a classroom management standpoint, but I felt like it's really helped me with classroom management. This is more of an outside motivator than an internal motivator. But really, when you see students doing the work that they need to be doing, it's really powerful when you're actually, instead of just letting it go because it's what they're expected to be doing, taking the time to say, hey, I really appreciate you getting this work done early. Calling mom that night and saying, hey, what's up? I just want to share with you, Johnny did this work and worked really hard on it, and I'm really proud for the work that he has done. I've had students who have been discipline issues who one day they decided to do their work, and I called mom and dad, and then granted, it didn't change everything, but the student had a very different attitude towards doing their work the next day. Something that I want to show you that I personally use, this positive behavior reinforcement, there's tons of articles and literature out there about it, so I encourage you to read on it more. This specifically is what I use. I'll log in real fast for you. It's called Live School. It's an opportunity for me to reward students not only for getting their work done, but for how they're acting in class. You can load, it's free. You can load all of your classes into here, and then if it decides to load, and then you can assign your own personal rewards. So this is my nursery landscaping class. I've got all of my periods here, so I'm just gonna bring up my 5th period horticulture. And what you can do, so right now it's showing you how many points they have. They've been able to cash theirs in. And if we look at it, let me go to the menu here. You can choose your own rewards. I'm just gonna click this student, click continue, and these are some of the things that I've laid out. So if they wanna buy an FFA jacket, everything that they do, I give them a point. If they earn 50 and they wanna cash that in, I'll discount them on their FFA jacket. Same with FFA trip, that sort of thing. The big one that students take is snack store. I go to the dollar store and buy like a bag of Doritos and things like that. And if they get 10 points, they cash that in. I'll call home if they want, dropping the lowest grade, all this sort of thing. And throughout the day, as they're working, I take my iPad around or I put it on the board and I say, all right, Hope, you're doing awesome. I click their name and then I can decide what I'm giving them points for. Now, something I want to note, I don't want these red marks here. A huge thing if you're doing positive behavior reinforcement is you never punish them. So whenever they're on task, you give them the points. If they're not on task, you don't take the points away. So I say, hey, you know what? This student has been awesome at using their cell phone. I click submit. It goes through and then they bank those points kind of like a bank account. This specifically and using this positive behavior has been really awesome in terms of reminding students, maybe they're off task and I put this on the board for them to see all of their names, and then all of a sudden some faces get a little bit more in depth on their computer working on what they're working on. They're supposed to be working on or working on the worksheet that I gave them. So that's been something that's been really big for me. So the big thing I want y'all to think about, and Carly and I talked about this yesterday, is as a student teacher, especially some of these tips, making sure you give them trust, show them that you care, you're feeling it out. You can get them motivated, but you have to remember you're kind of invading their space. And I'm sure Dr. Foster and Dr. Rice have said this before. By the time they really trust you and know you care, it's probably going to be time for you to leave. So the thing to keep in mind is try these different strategies, but remember it's totally different. And I can say from experience, totally different when it's your own classroom. So I think that's all I have. And then I'm going to take it over to my BFF, Carly.
Okay. Jill, do you mind clicking for me since you have it on your screen?
Okay. Myself. Yes, just let me know.
All right. Okay. So hi, my name is Carly. Same with Jill. This is my 2nd year teaching. I don't really utilize Twitter as much as I would like to, but the best way for you to contact me is through my email. So I have it posted there. I know Dr. Foster is, I know. Okay, Jill. Go ahead, Jill, you can click. And okay, so like Jillian said, I'm a little bit in a different area. I teach in rural, suburban, Westmoreland County, Western PA. Our population is only about 18,000, and we are a Title I school, so more than half of our students are on free and reduced lunch. We have about 2,400 kids, and we graduate at a rate of 93%. So we're a little bit higher than Jillian's. And actually, I shared that percentage with my students, and they were surprised that, you know, I think students just assume that everyone graduates. So go ahead. All right. Buzzwords. You gotta love them and hate them. I thought I'd throw some things that administrators might talk about, professors might talk about, and I kind of wanted to break down what those buzzwords look like in the classroom. Jill talked about extrinsic motivation with live school, using outside things to motivate your students. I try to use a lot of intrinsic motivation for my students. I try to bring a lot of relevance to their township or their county, and give them their own kind of personal sense. So kind of like breaking down those intimidating buzzwords, and I'm going to kind of show you how I use intrinsic motivation. Okay, so tip one, I'm a firm believer of place-based education. You guys, I believe, are still doing a community-based project. Is that correct? Can I get a nod from that? Okay, great. At first, I know you're like, oh, it's one more thing to do, but I do a lot of community-based projects because it's something my kids can easily relate about. So this quote that I have on here, one of my students actually told me that the other day. I said, you know, how are you motivated in this class? He said, because I actually care about my lab results. So the picture I have here, this was from my CASE Natural Resource and Ecology class. We are very privileged that I have a lake right across from my parking lot. So I put my hip waders on and I trudged down the middle of the lake, second period, and the lake supplies all the drinking water to Dairy Township, and we are testing water quality index. So my kids were like, okay, is there really fecal E. coli in my water? Or, you know, how does turbidity affect what I'm getting from the water fountain at school? So they were really motivated to get that lab done because we were testing water that is processed for the township right there. When I do current events, I try to pull from the local county newspaper, the Latrobe Bulletin or the Dairy Newsstand, and then I kind of go from county from there. Yes, we do talk about bigger pictures, but to kind of get them hooked and get them relating and motivated and confident about that subject, I try to pick events that are current and relevant to them. Just think about it for you guys. When you're on the web, don't Penn State articles kind of catch your eye the most? Same with students. They're gonna grab their attention if they're reading an article about the creek that they go fishing in, or at the greenhouse that they want to work at sometimes. So making it relevant to kind of catch their attention. Okay, Jill. All right, number two, know your learners. Jill hit this hard too. You want to care, but you are not their friends. Please remember that. They're going to respect you so much more when you're disciplining them, because a lot of them, I know a lot of students that I teach don't have a discipline at home, and they might not ask for it, but they appreciate when they do get it. So don't back down when you're assigning that tardy. Don't back down when you need to give them a 0. It's only going to help them at the end. If you're going to make them mad, they're going to get over after lunch anyway. They'll move on. But also knowing your learners is knowing how they learn. I make my kids take a test right in the beginning of the semester, so I know, are they kinesthetic, are they visual, are they audio? Most of my kids are visual or kinesthetic learners, which is not surprising, but whenever I do lecture, I try to, you know, gear a lot of flow charts. I write things out. I was helping a girl with a Punnett square the other day. She was getting all jammed up because there was too many words. I said, hey, write out big A literally. You know, I know you're a visual learner. You know, do this so it makes it work for you. So they don't lose that motivation. They don't get discouraged. You want to set them up for success. So I teach equine science, and I had a lot of kinesthetic kids in my equine science, which makes sense because a lot of them were people who had horses or rode horses, and I did a human horse gaited test. So instead of giving them a multiple choice test, they had to get a partner, hands on the shoulders, and I used the hallway, and they had to perform the different gaits. Between the two of them, they had to do a walking gait, a trotting gait, a gallop gait. And at first, they were kind of thrown off that I gave them a rubric and they had to do, you know, physical movements for a test. but I thought it was more impacting because they're more kinesthetic kids anyway. So know how your students learn, know the right tools to apply for them, and that takes time. It's only the beginning of the semester, and just now I'm kind of, getting a little bit more confident in myself that I'm giving them the right tools. Okay, Jill. All right, I use a lot of pictures. The world we live in is so driven by pictures and videos. I do a lot of memes, which you guys will see throughout this. I think my students think I just sit at home and live on meme generator. I don't actually make them myself, but this is from my environmental class. We were talking about pollution. And of course, everyone has an Instagram. So this was kind of a way that I got them hooked and made smog a little bit more relatable than just a random topic that we're going to be talking about. So when you are Googling topics and researching stuff for your classes, just click on Google Images and see what comes up, and post that picture as the bell work, or post it as their exit ticket, or have them come up with a response from that picture, because you'd be surprised how they interact with pictures more so than a whole slide worth of words. For videos, I show videos. Very rarely do I show 3 days worth, but if I do show more than 10 minutes, I have them do a silent annotation. So I take screenshots of the movie that they're going to be watching, and they have to create their own flow chart on a poster board, and ask questions on it. It's whatever they would say out loud to their neighbor, they have to put on it, and it kind of gets them a good way to being motivated in the video, invested in the video, and engaged in the video, rather than sitting on their desk with their face in their hand, bored out of their minds. So pictures worth 1,000 words. All right. Okay. So tip number 4, be confident, be crazy, be a nerd. Like, just lay it all on the line. A lot of the times they'll pick it up. I had some more quotes from my students. I asked my one kid, I'm like, how do I motivate you guys? Like, let's have a real conversation here. And they said, well, Ms. Schaefer, you're always singing. And that like really gets us pumped up. Like, I sing about bell work. I sing about flowers. Like, you come into class with a positive attitude, and those kids will pick up your positive attitude. They'll reciprocate it. If you're super excited to talk about erosion and you're like, oh, let's crank out the big E word, then they'll be like, oh yeah, the big E word sounds so much cooler than erosion. But they still know that's where it's at. So being confident and being yourself also comes with being real with them. I'm actually reading a book for my induction, cohort for, first, second year teaching. And there was a chapter on repairing, right? So if you had a bad day, going back to your students the next day and being like, hey, I took a lot out on you guys. You didn't deserve my attitude. Please know that that's not your fault. It was on me. Just having like that time to kind of regroup with your students, level with them, and go from there. Apologizing because maybe you messed up a lecture means a lot for students, and it, like Jill said, they're going to know that you care. When you care, they're going to care. So laying it all on the line, if you need to make a dance for photosynthesis to help them learn it, they're going to remember that, and they're going to be willing to, put themselves out there and be motivated in your class. Okay, tip number 5. Yeah, there are points where you need to get notes across, and food science right now is really irritated with me because there's some days you got to lay down the lecture, but whenever you can, use hands-on, place-based, relatable labs and examples, making it so they're investigated and motivated in those answers. So like if you're doing a lab about Pop-Tarts, make it relatable. Every high school kid is going to eat a Pop-Tart. Your goal is for them to want to know the test results. So for my notes in food science, there are some points where I try to break up the notes with doing like little mini demos, something that gets them up and moving. I do challenge myself every day to get at least one of my classes out of their seats once. And I actually got that from another teacher at Dairy. Her goal is she gets her students out of her desks every class, every day. I'm kind of starting small, but just getting the blood flowing and getting those kids kind of up and around and doing something different is going to motivate them. Whether or not that's it's first period and they're tired and you make them do 2 laps around the desk. I've done that before, right? I'm like, guys, come on, let's wake up. Like, we're here, let's do it. Let's crank it out. Like, let's do 2 laps around the classroom and we're ready to go. So don't be afraid to like get them out of their comfort zone, because yeah, you might have the kid who shuts down, but you might have 90% of the class being like, all right, let's do it. Yeah, let's crank this out. Okay, so Jill talked about grades. I don't have kids coming up to me and asking if it's graded. They are not very grade motivated in my classroom. Whether or not that's for the district, I don't really know. The only grade that I really emphasize on is bell work. I do grade bell work. That's something that it took time for me to appreciate the power of bell work and exit tickets. So each one of my students, they get a different color worksheet for, like, my classes are color coordinated. The front has 5 blocks for bell work answers and the back has 5 blocks for exit tickets. And at the end of the week, it's 5 points. And those 5 points add up to 45 points by the end of the quarter. But I try to hook them and motivate them with that bell work, whether it's a funny meme or it's a picture or it's a website that I want them to go on. I did get a student said if bell work is easy, they're more willing to do it and they're more motivated and they don't get shut down right off the bat. Yes, that's also a student thinking that. So you have to take that with a grain of salt. You do want them to kind of do some higher level thinking bell works, but I really try to utilize my bell work every day and make it count for them. Jill has a lot of Google Docs stuff. Actually, yeah, I'll talk about that here. This is good. No, you can go back to cell phones. We'll talk about technology for dairy. So technology, my students do not, it's not one-to-one. We do have an open cell phone policy. Teachers are at their own discretion in their classroom. I have my expectations of that of a job. I tell my students, yes, we live in a world with cell phones. You need to learn now how to use them professionally. So I expect my students, if they have their phone, it is face down. We use them for good, not evil in my class. There are lots of times where we use them because we have laptops, but by the time they get on, we get logged on, that's half the class. I mean, yeah, I could assign it for bell work, but we're still eating 15 minutes of class time just logging on the computer, or this one's dead. So a lot of time, it's easier to just use your cell phones. But I tell them, would an employer care if your phone just went off? If you had a job after school, would you not be embarrassed that your phone went off in front of your boss? So I try to be real with them, and I have real world expectations with cell phones. I'm like, this is the world we live in. I expect you to model now what I expect you to act like in the real world. I feel we're not a Google school, which I think we could implement a lot more technology. And I get really jammed up about techno apps and like live school. That's awesome. So there's so many educational technology resources out there. Please don't get overwhelmed and feel like you're not utilizing them all for your students. Take them like 1 month at a time, maybe focus on a different website to implement to get your kids motivated and engaged. But I do wish that we had more technology for the students, but hey, you have what you have, and you gotta make student motivation work with what you have. All right, so Jillian and I decided that since we were in your shoes not very long ago, that we're going to open up the remainder of the time for question and answer. Feel free to pick our brains. Once again, I got my Smokey the Bear meme. Okay, I promise I did not make that one up myself. So if you guys, we can do a microphone if you want to type it. Jill and I are going to act as a new teacher panel for you guys. You can run ideas by us, suggestions, concerns. The floor is yours, and we are here to help you guys.
I think it'll be best, guys, if we try to just talk instead of typing.
Okay.
If you want to talk, I do think that you could just jump in. But don't you guys have a button where you can hit like thumbs up or something like that? You can, so that if someone's talking, you can say, hey, I'm next in line.
I don't know. Can you hear me? I don't know if we have a thumbs up.
I don't think there's one on here, and I can't see everyone at once, I think, even if they had one.
Okay.
Right. No, Laura, that feature doesn't exist on this particular platform.
Oh, well, I was on earlier and I thought I saw something where you could raise your hand. You can raise your hand.
Yeah, I have mine horizontal, and if you like touch the screen and there's the 3 dots that say more in the top corner, there's a raise hand there. I don't know what.
Nice.
So I just hit it.
Yeah. Okay. So Matt Ryder, do you have a question? Your hand's up.
Yeah. Well, I was just talking to Jillian a little bit about participation points. And it seems to be working okay. I think mostly because the students seem to just they like that we can just talk about it. Like some days we just have really good discussion and the activity or something else doesn't really get done. And I think on those days, they like that they don't feel like they're going to be hit with a grade or something for that. And I told my 9th graders that it's all about participating and being active in the discussion, and that seems to be working really well. But yeah, I could definitely use a rubric. You mentioned a rubric that you use. That would be really cool if you could share that. I would appreciate it.
Yeah, I mean, and the comment that I made there, and it was mostly I knew that I should have made a rubric and chose not to. And by not having a rubric, a parent was asking why their grade was so low. And I mean, I knew what the student was doing, but I didn't necessarily have criteria for it. So yeah, I think a rubric and the participation is really powerful. I personally deal with just my number of students. If I were to do that every day, it would take a long time to do it. So the way that I do it, if you're not up for doing participation every day, is I have a clipboard that I keep my roster on, and I have a couple of my rubrics printed off there. And every class period, I try and do 3 or 4. Like I'll just randomly look at a student, check them off for that week, and do the rubric and input their grade so they don't really know when it's coming. And, I have justification, like I put the date, I did it on this day. I might write a comment for specifically why their points were taken off on the rubric. And it just helps only have a couple a day versus like an everyday or weekly thing.
Yeah, I think the thing with mine is it's like the grading system it's like Sapphire. And so they can see their grades at all times. And that was like the first week right after those grades, because I put them in once a week. Right after they went in, there's kids who maybe missed one day and it was unexcused. And that was like a 9 out of 15, which puts their grade pretty low. Or if they missed 2 days, it was even lower. So
yeah,
it just caused a little bit of blowback. But I think I talked them through it because I explained to them, I was like, look, guys, it's going to come out in the wash. Like by the end of the marking period, you're going to be just fine. It's just right now, it looks bad.
Yeah.
So my Bellwork sheets, they are considered participation points. And honestly, like if they can't get their act together, respond to the Bellwork and fill out their exit ticket where they're really participating in class. So my students know that 5 points every week is judged by their Bellwork. If they don't turn it in at the end of the week, I give them a 0, because if you can't participate in my class and turn it in, how are you going to earn points? So that kind of, instead of like doing a rubric, that's how I do participation in my class. So I know like they have it together kind of a thing. Just another option.
As far as Bellwork, like as a grade, how do you grade that if they miss class that day? Like I have several that have been out for the past few weeks that have been sick or just absent doing whatever. So how do I catch them up if they weren't even there for that lesson?
So I have them go to their neighbor. I started off doing, all right, guys, just write absent. If it's like 2 absents out of the week, I make sure that they're writing quality responses for the rest of the week. But then I started I said, turn to your neighbor, like get the Bellwork question for your neighbor. It kind of makes everyone accountable. So when they turn to their neighbor, they're like, oh, you didn't do it? Like, what? How am I supposed to get my points if you didn't even pull your weight? So kind of like the think, pair, share. I like that a lot more. They're still responsible for it, but hey, you got to talk to your peer. And then the peer, when they're explaining what happened in class, it's another reinforcement. Like, oh, we did this lab and we got this result, or we went over these notes and like these were kind of the main talking points. So like kind of focus your exit ticket on that. For kids who procrastinate on Bellworks and at the end of the quarter, they have 0 for all of them, I do make them write a 1-page essay for every week of what they learned in that class. So like, I mean, it's very frightening when they see a 0 out of 45, but I said, hey, you write me a single-page essay, 1-page, single line about what you did that week, I'll consider that your 5 points for the week. So you can really kind of like mold that Bellwork worksheet to make it work for you. It's trial and error, honestly, it really is. I've changed it up a couple times now.
I have something that's along those lines. Actually, I'm just ran into a problem this week because I had them doing presentations. So they would work during the week and do work for like a day or two, and then they would do a presentation or a project with a poster. And I had students who didn't show up on the day of the presentations, and they didn't really do their work, and they didn't do the presentation, but it's like a huge portion of their grade. So I'm trying to think of, for instance, it's like a livestock. They did livestock posters. And I'm trying to figure out how do I give these 2 students that right now are getting like big fat 0s for this project, how do I give them something to make that up? Because they can't make up the poster or the presentation.
If you give a 0 on anything, I make my students sign off on their rubric. It saves your professionalism in the end. Like I have given a 0 out of 100 for kids who completely blew off my rubric, and I make them sign that, and that by signing that they acknowledge that they didn't show up, they didn't do their work, and that way if parents can question it, you have the student and your signature on that rubric. But I think that kind of goes back to Jill's menu that she has, is having them pick, like maybe if they weren't all about that poster in the presentation, maybe they felt more comfortable behind the video screen. So maybe giving them another option from that menu that Jill had.
Yeah, Jill, that would be awesome if you could send that rubric too. I definitely need that because I'm finding that to be a really good strategy to have them work on that stuff.
Yeah, no problem. To bounce off of answering Carla's question too, any of you that do have access to technology, I don't know how many of you are one-to-one, if any of you are, I do my Bellworks on Google Classroom. It has the option to ask a question. I can set it to be scheduled at a specific time. So I schedule it for when the classes change, so the 5 minutes in between. And then I give them 5 to 10 minutes when the class starts, and I actually can say when it's due. And as soon as a student types an answer and puts it in, if it's after that set time, I know whether or not it's late, so I can make the choice. Normally I just would like them to do it, but I can at least see when they're doing it, and then I can just go in and I can actually grade it. You can grade on Classroom. Unfortunately, our school, the Classroom grade does not communicate with the gradebook grade, but I can that day type, and it makes it way easier for me then to just move them over versus going back and forth. So if you have access to Google Classroom or something like that, if you don't have access to Google Classroom, if you can share a Google form, that's a really great way to do Bellwork. I did that when I student taught. It timestamps them. And the thing about Google Classroom is they have no, like Miranda asked, if they're gone, they have no excuse for not doing it, because they can see exactly what we did the day before. I upload any Google Slides I do that day, any assignment, like everything we do is on Classroom. Even if we're doing a hard copy, I put it digitally on Classroom. So it kind of adds that accountability standpoint.
I want to hit a timeout real quick. I just visited Evelyn today, and I also know we're using a new platform. I thought I would share that I have active speaker up, so whoever's talking, I see that video, and then I can see the listing of people who are participating in the chat. So I got 3 little pods open to help me communicate effectively. But Evelyn has Google Classroom. Michael Cahill, yes or no, do you have Google Classroom? Okay, he can type.
We don't use Google.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Can you hear me now?
Can you hear me now?
Yes. He'll type yes or no. I'm going to
Let
go
me try
on
this
that.
one.
Okay.
How about this one? Oh gosh. So I got some audio issues going on here, but we don't use Google Classroom in our class. But as I logged into one of the computers yesterday, and it automatically brought me up to a Google Classroom introduction slide. So that's actually one of the notes that I have written down now is to ask Mr. Biddle about maybe how to use that, because it does seem like we have a subscription.
Thank you very much. Kayla Hack, you have Google Classroom, correct?
We have what's called Schoology, and so we use everything Google, but it's on something called Schoology. So we probably could use Google Classroom. I use Schoology. I just choose not to do digital bell work. I asked my kids if they wanted it, and they chose to have paper.
Okay. Matt Snyder, I'm going to assume you do not. Matt Ryder told me he does not. Miranda Kane, I do not think so. Nate Repitz, I can't remember if there's Google Classroom.
We use an e-backpack system.
That's right.
I don't know. I think that our students' emails are associated with Google accounts, but I don't think it's associated with Google Classroom.
Thanks, guys, for sharing. And I just wanted to hit pause there because my mind was blown on a couple of things. I did not have opportunity to use Google Classroom. I've tried to ask for Google Classroom to use for us as a student teaching program, and Google doesn't work that way. And they were not so cool about Daniel Foster negotiating for the entire Penn State University system of setting up a Google Classroom. So I got shot down pretty hard on that one, but I see it becoming more common. And the notion of some of that stress I've heard you share about how do I get the bell work up or how do take it down in the credit. I mean, she just shared some things there and shared also a workaround of Google Forms, which I have been playing with lately. If you think that's something you want more of, remember our just-in-time teacher education approach to where we try to leave flexibility to build in things that you want addressed. To be honest, the next time for that opportunity will be in April. But perhaps we could I'd love to see if there's actually a Google Classroom expert, which the only one I can think of right now is Diane Glock. I think she's gone to some conferences and got a certificate on it. But to see if someone to come in. Sorry to interrupt. Back to the experts.
Just a peek for you guys since you're talking about it, and here's where I can assign stuff. I can create a question, blah, blah, blah. And then here, I can schedule it. I can ask it right away. Also, Google Classroom just rolled out for those of you that have it, if you didn't know this, you can actually differentiate and give students different assignments and they won't even know who gets which one. So you can select which students get it, and then you can also, whenever you want it due, it'll monitor when it's there. So it's pretty cool.
That's awesome.
I've asked about Google Classroom and Google Schools, and I can relate to Dr. Foster. It gets kind of political. I get a lot of pushback from it, and a lot of teachers very appalled that I would even suggest it. So, I mean, by the time I had my kids logged into any kind of laptop, we would lose so much classroom time. So you really have to, yes, it would be awesome, but like you got to roll with what you have and, trial and error and being real with your kids. Like, hey, this bell work, this worksheet isn't working out. Let's kind of relook at this. And your kids, they know it's probably not working, and they probably appreciate that you realize it and you're willing to work with them and make it work. So yeah, it gets a little frustrating when you don't have one-to-one. And I mean, I'm looking at Jill, I'm like, oh, that would be so nice if I just clicked on a tab and I saw all of my bell works in there instead of sitting at home and grading them and double checking them. So it's okay. We'll get there at some point.
Nate, you have your hand up. Was that just to show us, or do you have a question?
I think that was just a test run. How do you see that?
I click on participants and it brings everybody up.
Okay. I see what you've seen now. I'll try to.
What are the questions do y'all have about motivation? Because to be honest, I thought this was a topic y'all brought up pretty strong. It's a topic that I expect from teacher candidates.
I got a thought
about week 4.
So my issue that I talked to you about on Saturday, Dr. Foster, the student that just doesn't care about anything. And I have students with like 10% in classes and they just don't care at all. But I talked to him and I called that student aside. And so what I kind of figured out, and maybe it's the wrong answer, but so I'm trying to get him to do an SAE project and he doesn't care about anything, but I got him to do an SAE project as a video game tester. So he's going to look at what video game testers do, and then he's going to put together like an actual report of a video game that he likes to play. And I think I did that. I talked to him on Monday, and well, it's only Tuesday today, but today I just saw like a difference in his willingness to like do stuff. Like it just seemed like, I don't know, just by giving him that, even though it's not really a supervised agriculture experience, I don't know, he just seems so much more willing to engage in other stuff. Like I think that was the trick that he's learning, that it can be fun, or it should be fun. And I think I'm having fun with it. So we'll see what happens.
Matt, I know Jillian and I both kind of talked about knowing your students, and once you make that connection, you will see motivation do a complete turnaround. Just having that student realize that you took the time and wanted to make that connection and care, I mean, you clearly saw the results right there.
Also, this is something, I think I didn't think about this because we were trying to talk to you guys from the student teacher perspective, but when it comes to having your own classroom, SAE is huge in helping students realize that they can do something in your class that they enjoy. I had a very similar instances, Matt, I have quite a handful of students who have less than a 20% in my class, and it's very hard for them to do something, students that are failing, and I can't get to all of them, but I just recently had a student who's really into computers, and he works at a computer repair shop, brought up something, we're revamping our SAE, and he brought up something about how they do recycling of computers, and he wanted to make like an FFA sponsored school technology recycling. So if you have a cell phone, a laptop that you need to get rid of, you can throw it in the landfill, which is an awful way to do it, or you can do it the responsible way. And he wants to plan putting together a recycled technology drive. And I mean, this kid was taking out his Game Boy almost every day until I took it from him. My lights went off before that happened. So SAE is going to be really important for you guys to be able to do that.
Yay for auto light dimmers.
What else? I know that on a lot of your surveys, and even for those that have been supervised, like student motivation is something that a lot of you have been asking questions about. So now do you have your hand raised, Kayla?
Yeah, that's me raising my hand.
Kayla,
I'm really sorry. My computer died and it didn't give me a warning. It just shut off. So that's why I was gone. So I'm sorry that I missed the last question. And then my iPad decided not to work. So this is where I'm at. But my question, and based off of what you were just saying, Dr. Rice came to visit yesterday, and she saw quite possibly one of the not so great days of Kayla. And she saw my majorly unmotivated class, and we decided very disengaged class that I just picked up last week. They have me every other day, lower group, and just a lot of behavior things. So I think Jill or Carly, I don't remember who mentioned this, but like tomorrow, like I want to start over because there's a lot of things I didn't do and should have done, and Monday did not go well. And so I guess you have some more tips on just like starting over. Say like, I know this wasn't fun for you, or I know this like didn't go well. So like, let's start over. Do you have more tips in doing that and then just continually building that up when I don't see them every day?
I mean,
go ahead, Jill.
Carly already mentioned this with kind of hitting that reset button and asking for forgiveness if you mess up as a teacher. It's not something students see very often, and it's kind of hard to do when you're kind of asking them for forgiveness for however it went down. So I mean, I did something similar personally. When I have the same students all year long, I don't change with semesters, but as I came back from Christmas break, for the 2 weeks that we were off, they were gone for 2 weeks. We know how much we forget in 2 weeks. Personally, I came in, I actually moved where the seats were, I moved their seats, and I kind of did a first day of school lesson again, even though same students, we're starting a new unit, but I really wanted to reiterate, and I changed some rules, and I actually reprinted a syllabus for them, just in terms of some maybe rule changes that were there. Dr. Foster just shared restorative classroom management. I've looked at that up too. It's really, really helpful. Just owning up to it, and then being consistent with it. Obviously you don't want them to think that every time that the thing you have to remember is, you don't want to do it too often that the students are like, if we just don't do this, she'll change to do this and that. Be consistent and hold them to a high standard. But if I were you, I would just go in and have another first day of school lesson and kind of say, you know what, guys, we're going to rewind. I did that when I student taught for 2 classes actually. So just kind of start over, figure out a new way you want to do it, and then go from there. I don't think there's anything. Students understand that you're a student teacher, and they're not there to take advantage of it. Hopefully, most of them will be patient with you.
Okay.
Go ahead.
Oh.
Sorry.
Oh, sorry. I was just gonna say, I had a problem with that actually. I had 2 problems. Like one, I had a student who was just like a real, like, I don't know, he was just a real troublemaker the first day. And I was maybe a little harder on him than I should have been, but it was 8th period and I was having a bad day. And I called him over like not the next day, because it was over a weekend. This is a Friday, but Monday I called him and just him. And I said to him, like, hey, so-and-so, I know I was harder on you on Friday than I probably should have been. Like, this is why, like, I'm sorry, let's keep it together. And he's kind of what everyone calls a troublemaker kid. I hear from the other teachers, but ever since then, I haven't had too many issues. I haven't had too many issues with him. And I think it's probably because, like, no one's ever apologized to him, or no adult has ever apologized to him or been real with him. But on the same side, I have a girl that Dr. Ewing knows because he got to sit near her, and she's just a real sasspot, and she has absolutely no faith in my knowledge, which, to be honest, like, I've made mistakes in the class that she's in, my fair share. But that, I don't see that getting any better, and I feel like I'm just going to have to crush her soul, but I don't want to do that. I don't know how I'm supposed to handle it.
From my experience, even as a female, I found sometimes girl disciplinary issues are more difficult than male disciplinary issues. And I will say, I think it might be especially hard for you as a male versus a female trying to relate. I mean, I would reiterate what you had done with the first student, I think was A+, and probably something that showed that you were wise beyond some of those seasoned teachers' years, to know that you care about, that's the big thing, you caring about them. You just might, with that girl, it might not be a one conversation. It's going to be maybe wearing down a wall as opposed to the one conversation that's going to change it. So just keep at it, do the best you can. And I hate saying this, try your hardest, but you won't necessarily get to every student. It's just the reality of it.
Yeah, I agree with Jill. I mean, you do have to keep in mind, like, we all have our bad days. And just being real with your students. Like, if I know a girl is, I mean, this is high school, at least once a week I have a girl crying over something and whatever. And a lot of the times,
there's no crying in ag, Carly.
I know. If you guys ever know Jody Hoover, there's no crying in ag. I did tell one of my kids that, and she looked at me with her eyes bawling. Wrong thing to say at the wrong time. But realizing that sometimes they have bad days and not to ride on them. It could be as simple as, hey, why don't you go to the bathroom, get some cold water in your face, like, go take a breather and, like, be ready to come back. And just acknowledging that and being real with those students makes a world of difference, because you could have made a scene, you could have embarrassed her, you could have wrote her up at attention. It's just taking a step back and being like, how would I like to be treated? That's kind of how I'm usually very real with my students. Like, come on, guys, pull it together. Like, it's first period on a Monday. Like, let's go. Come on. I hope that helped, Matt. That might not have helped.
I have no problem visualizing Miss Schaefer being real. I don't know why. Like, that's just so crystal clear. I feel like I've sat in your classroom 100 times. I have no problem.
I've already had 2 or 3 examples of students who are either crying or falling apart or are just not feeling good, and they just don't want to. It's like, I'm not going to get much out of this student. And I think, yeah, I don't know. That's been my opinion, is that, like, if I don't, I feel like I hardly have enough time to help every student if they wanted help in a 42-minute period. I see, if I see a student who's just not having a good day, I'm not gonna take the time that it would take for me to like, try to fix their problem and get them going, because then class is over.
So if it comes to be a consistent thing, then I would definitely refer to guidance. There have been numerous times this year that I have referred students to guidance because it's gotten to a point where, all right, this isn't a bad day, this is a bad 2 weeks, and your student will probably realize that you turned them in, but in the long run, they are gonna know that you care, and they're gonna come back to that class very motivated because you're motivated for them. But I would definitely, yeah, we have bad days, but if it turns into a bad week, I would talk to co-op teachers. It's better to email guidance and vice principal than sit on it and have something happen. So just always keep that in mind. Keep your students' interest in mind. You meet them halfway, they'll meet you halfway. What are other questions about student motivation? Because it can be, you can take it very personally. Like I thought was this really cool plant video, and usually like the really cool things that I think are cool, I have to really push the envelope and show them that it is really cool. But she sat in the back and she kind of made the hand gesture like, oh, this is so boring to her friend. And for a second, like I was crushed. I was like, I can't believe she thinks this video is boring. Like, but then you take a step back, right? Or how can I address this video? How can I change it? So maybe I have more students engaged and they're not making symbol or like, gestures that they're completely bored out of their mind. And that was 2 weeks ago. Go ahead. Sorry.
I have a thought like along those lines. It's something I've noticed is, I don't know. It seems like I don't know, my drill sergeant called it like your cool card. It's like leave your cool card at home because you're not in your hood anymore, and like you're in my hood now. And I feel like my students, they get like their cool card and they come in and it's like they're afraid to be up in front of the classroom, be a little goofy. Like we did interviews or something today. We did like the I forget. It's like the subject matter expert moment. And I found that it was kind of successful for me to like be goofy in front of them first. Like I went first and showed that it was okay to be fun and have fun with it. But I don't know if you guys have any other thoughts or any other methods or ways to try to do that. Like, how do you get that cool card and like rip it up? Like, let's just have fun here and learn. And because I feel like they may be motivated, but it's not cool to act motivated in where I'm teaching.
So you have to be 100% you 100% of the time. That's my motto. I literally have a dance choreography to leaf anatomy, like liguals, monocot, dicots. And you know what? I rock that dance and I make them stand up and rock it with me. And if you have the whole class laughing and up and moving, then you've got it. If you put yourself out there, they're going to see that and acknowledge it, and it's going to motivate them. Do I sing a lot? Yes. Do I sing about bell work? Absolutely. But my kids hear me sing about bell work and they get it done. So is it what everyone's doing? No, but you have to figure out what works. You have to figure out your cool card, and that's why you're student teaching, to figure out that cool card. Was I confident enough when I was student teaching to make a dance about, agronomy? Probably not, but throughout student teaching, it gave me that confidence to, whenever I had my own classroom, I really had the confidence to make it my all and bring to the table so my kids could bring back.
Jill, do you have any comments there for Mr. Ryder at the end?
I'm going to be totally honest. I'm in the same boat as Mr. Ryder. I've got a lot of kids. I think they got a lot of cool cards. There's been a couple that I really just had to have a real conversation with. To be totally honest with you, some of these kids that I have, they have their cool card because we do have gang issues in my school, or they're already dealing drugs, whatever that may be. We've got that happening in my school, and it's really hard to take that cool card away. The only few I've gotten to, it's been with really just having like a really honest conversation with them about privately, if this is what they want their life to look like or not. That doesn't totally change their attitude, but if this is what you want your life to look like for the rest of your life, then fine, you can be cool. You cannot do this worksheet. That's totally up to you. Because some of those kids that have that, they have to want to give up that card on their own. So you just got to tap into them, show that they care. But if I figure out that answer, I'll let you know. Or if you figure it out, please let me know.
Okay, team. Well, one
Thanks,
thing
that was helpful.
that I think is important is to always respect and look at time. And so I want you to think about how awesome it is. One, that Dr. Ross pulled together this meeting. Two, that 2 graduates, members of the Penn State Ag Ed family, who are not seeking a grade, who are not getting credit, gave up one of their evenings just to come back to give to you because they were in your shoes at one time as well. And I can't tell you how much I appreciate the effort that Dr. Ross put in, that Jill and Carly being here. I can't tell you how proud I am. I couldn't even figure out a way to compose a tweet to say that, but literally my heart blows up listening to the words that you're saying and the impact that I know you're making. And is a continual reminder, guys, that for all of you, for all 7 of you that are currently in student teaching, this isn't a class. This isn't just a program. Once you're a Penn Stater, you're always a Penn Stater, and we'll continue to be there for you going forward. And we'll call upon you in the future to give back to future students that I don't even know we'll have yet. And you'll share great things at that time as well. So I wanted to make sure that we give a chance to show our appreciation however you wish to Carly, Jean, and Jillian Amber before we kick them off so they can go about and do all the other things they have to do, and we'll finish up this meeting by 6:30.
Thanks y'all for having us. I know Carly means it too. We really mean it. If you have questions, I know that we were CC'd on the email that Dr. Rice sent out. I can share those things that I shared with you via that email if you would like. And if you have other questions, let us know.
Same. We're here for you. We got your backs.
Thank you, Carly. Thank you, Jill, so much.
Have a nice night.
Bye.
Bye.
Thank you.
Okay, so that was really good. Really proud of those 2, like Dr. Foster said. I'm actually, it probably looks like I'm not looking at my camera because I'm looking at my screen so I can move through this PowerPoint, but please know that I am here. I am paying attention to you all. I don't know where it would be a good place. So I'm just going to leave where it's at, okay? But I don't know why I did it because it's not like you can scroll on it, but I did link an article for student motivation that I'll just actually show through an email for you guys that I found. And it was linked to the PowerPoint, thinking you guys could just click on it, but I don't know what I was thinking. But so I'll make sure I share that. So moving on though through the night, we got some more things to get through before the end of the night. Highlights from the weekly surveys. There's some repeat things this week that we saw last week. There was some new things too. I want to start with the GEMS because consistently across the board, a lot of the cooperating teachers said about how you are really good about taking feedback and actually applying that feedback and showing growth in the areas that they're providing that constructive feedback to. So kudos to you guys for looking critically at what they give you and realizing maybe where you can change it and actually implementing change. So really good. Again, a lot of props to you all for student rapport. They say that you all are developing relationships really well and that students like you and that you are establishing yourself as a teacher and that they are very receptive to your teaching and whatnot. I understand you might have some classes where that's not always 100% the case, but overall they're saying that they're really impressed with your student rapport. Again, enthusiasm came out, just that your enthusiasm for the class and different teaching methods and just bringing that to their programs. They're really appreciative of that. A few things for you guys to keep aware of, and I know that some of these are things that were shared last week, so you guys, it's on your radar, and so slowly chipping away, trying to improve those things is all you can do, and we ask that you continue to do that. Just making sure that you do utilize those classroom management posters that we provided. Jillian said tonight about coming back and kind of revisiting those after Christmas break because she felt like she needed to for whatever reason. And don't be afraid to ever refer to those or maybe hit pause and like, hey, we need to go back over these. I know that it might be helpful for some of you, and it can also be a way for you to reestablish yourself as like that disciplinarian. So just make sure that you are trying to stay in control of those classes and that you are managing them well. And one of the sayings that we used to say is that like preparation's half 3/4 of the battle, because of like if you have good engaging lessons planned, then your students will be so engaged that they don't want to misbehave because they're really excited about the content. So that kind of goes back to the student motivation and the bell work. The bell works is a huge thing. It's definitely a classroom management tool, but it's also like an activator. Jill calls it an activator. So it's getting them excited about what they're learning, but it's also getting them hopefully prepared to learn as well. So utilize them a lot. And then the big thing that we saw across the surveys was just making sure you're crafting out time at the end of your lessons to be very purposeful in a conclusion and a summary, going back to those objectives and making sure that you're meeting those objectives and kind of doing a quick assessment or like they getting it. So those are some things that were shared through the weekly survey. And so if you have questions about that or want to speak one-on-one with any of the teacher educators here, feel free to do that. But good things across the board. I did through all my visits over the last week, really pleased with what I saw. So you guys are doing good stuff, so keep it up. Next thing is the open call. So this is the time for concerns, questions, thoughts. And I'll just kind of like open the floor. I have to turn to my screen to look to see who might be raising their hand, but please know that I'm still paying attention. I see Evie has her hand up.
So just a thought comment that I have. So we talked about bell work and having student motivation. I've been having trouble in one of my classes, and with that class, one thing that I'm going to be starting to try this week is having a timer for the bell work. Because they just like come in, stroll in, they're like, yeah, we're going to get started. And I'm like, no, like this is a fast moving pace. Like I have a lot of energy. It's the morning. Let's get rolling. So we're going to start with a timer and see if that changes anything.
That's a great tactic. It's a great place to start. And now's the time for you to try different things and see what does work. And so that sounds like a really great plan to try and change things, Debbie. That's a good one. Anyone else? Kayla?
I got some fun news today. We received our grant that I applied for, so that's pretty exciting. So we'll be doing a fall ranging project at the community center in town. So that'll be in March sometime.
Yeah.
Awesome.
I'm going to try and do my next visit around that time.
How cool.
So any other comments, questions?
Matt, I'd like you to hold on if you can. We're about done here. We hit till 6:30. So I think I'll jump in right now then as we look at this call, and I'll make a couple of points here with you. So this is me stepping in and sharing a couple of things. Okay, number one, we understand that a lot goes on for these faculty meetings, and that's why out of the 6 that occur every 2 weeks, we give you that space, that one freebie. But it is important that we are present and we're here when we're here. Now, I love the work that Dr. Ross is doing to make sure that we bring quality and respond. So she'll record them so you can get it, but we need you to be here when you're here. Second thing on that, this is what's really fascinating to me. And Miranda made a comment, and I'm coming back. We're learning together, so I'm okay with this. This is a brand new platform. And that means that I observe things that I've never saw in another because I get to see your video, okay? And I also don't know how you're engaging if you're trying to use an iPad mini or a phone or a laptop, and I know that could impact your user experience. But here's what's important to think about. I wish I could watch, because I don't like it that I can't see all of you either at the same time. But if you could raise your hand, I'm not going to do that. I bet most of you probably brought a guest speaker in, or you know the feeling of what it's like, because I know that all of you have brought your university supervisor to your class about how you hope your students will act and react. These online meetings have all of a sudden opened up. I know that bringing in Jill and Carly, that was special. Like, well, you want them to know how much every one of your students are into what they're saying. And so then we have to be concerned. This is what's interesting about nonverbals. Nonverbals that none of you would ever do face-to-face, but because it feels different online. And so I was sitting back here thinking about it. I'm like, that's cool. We just need to talk about some best practices. This is new for all of us. Where this is a win for all of us is I've seen schools go more and more to doing what we call Skype interviews. And how do you control and handle that? Like Dr. Ross, I'm going to pick on her. She's identified she's not interviewing, but if she was doing a Skype interview, she'd have to work on that camera position so it looks like she was maintaining eye contact while still being able to engage with what's going on. For me, it was figuring out how to discuss, like Miranda had a concern about the chat. And I actually saw that come up. And at first I'm like, well, what's going on? Because I had it open to where I was watching the screen, and over here on the side, I had a pod of the chat. And so it wasn't interfering. But then it made me start thinking, is it because every time somebody chatted, it covered the screen? Is that what was happening?
I think what Miranda was getting at is that, if Miranda doesn't mind me kind of speaking for her, but I think just because you're trying to listen to the speaker and then there's lots of chats going on, and sometimes it's like joking stuff and it's not stuff really pertaining to the content. And I kind of can see where Miranda's coming from, because it's like all this other side conversation. And so if you're trying to read to keep up, if it's related to the content, it's fine, but then you're missing what the speaker's saying because you're reading. So, I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, Miranda, but I think that's what you were kind of alluding to.
Yeah. I mean, I didn't mean that to be like rude or anything. It was
No,
just
I
like,
understand.
it always pops up on my screen, and I'll be reading that instead of listening. And I guess it's a little hard for me to do both. And especially if the comments were very relatable to like student teaching. Of course, it wasn't that they were not related at all, but it was just more related to like, oh, I did this today in class, or I did that, instead of like a question about the speaker. So it was just a little distracting for me. So yeah, I didn't mean it to be like rude or anything.
No, that's what we're doing, is identifying some best practices as a team. And so I can agree and go, yeah, let's make sure we try to stay focused. But also I understand the need for some back channel conversation. So think about how we can set up so it's not covering up your screen when we go forward. Just a couple of things I want you to think about, like for your nonverbals, how are you appearing when people are looking at, if you're engaging? And if you can't, if something's going on, like y'all saw me, I disconnected the video a couple of times. It's because Melanie was getting ready to go to 4-H and was asking me questions, and so I just took off the video. So, this isn't like it's just me trying to work through and use it as a coachable moment, knowing that I only see more video conferencing occurring in the lifespan of your professional careers. So let's talk and think about how we can do that for best practices and how we can use these meetings, because we only have 4 more left. It's every 2 weeks, and hopefully there's a lot of value to that. So I'm going to pitch it back to Dr. Ross to confirm and wrap up and make sure that we're on track so that we can always complete by the 6:30 that we promised you, if not before.
Yeah, so any other questions, comments, concerns before I move on? I have to turn this way now. I'm not trying to be rude. Okay, so good. But like Dr. Foster said, and I've said earlier, we've said 100 times, if anything ever comes up throughout the week, you know how to get a hold of us. Always open communication, always key. So moving on. Tweets of the week. I'm really excited about this. 2 new tweets of the week that I really enjoyed. First, for multiple reasons, I love flowers, yes, but I also thought this was just a really great picture of a student in their project that Evie posted, and kind of being fun with the hashtag flowers thing. My light just went off. And I really like Nate's. I like how he did the collage of the tweets of the week, and I just think you guys are doing a really great job with your tweets and reaching and providing some more ag literacy out there by showing some of that stuff. So good job, Nate and Evie. So next up, we have our moment of Zen. So if you remember, hopefully Michael and Evie remembered that they are up to share a moment of Zen for today. And if you look at the bottom, Matt Snyder is in charge of Moment of Zen for the March 7th meeting. So I'll just turn it over to Michael and Evie.
Okay, so can you guys hear me okay?
Yeah.
I'm switching back to this.
Yeah, we can hear you.
You guys hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you.
Okay.
So
I was just thinking about the moment of Zen, and
past week I felt like I was at the end of the day I was so exhausted. I was really hoping to engage like a lot of like all the students in every class period, and I was just exhausted. And I feel like my Zen moment is just that sometimes like you can't please everybody all the time, and you shouldn't make yourself crazy. And we're all student teachers in this together, so we just kind of have to take it one step at a time and not necessarily expect
perfection all at once. My moment of Zen.
Good job.
So I had my moment of Zen actually today. So Dr. Foster came and visited me today. So he was present for almost all of my classes, except my last period of 8th grade, which I'm going to be completely honest, I am so glad he wasn't there because those 8th grade boys, they just, oh my gosh, 8th graders are a different breed. So I normally I call myself an inverted porcupine when I have 8th graders. And it's like, if you imagine me as a porcupine and now take the quills and like put them inside of me, that's how I feel when I see an 8th grader. So I'm getting better at, managing my 8th graders and like getting on their excitement level. And I'm really when I start teaching them more, I'm going to be able to like use that energy for other things because I'm teaching them a lesson that isn't mine right now. But today my moment with Zen was I gave them an assignment today and not that I tricked them, but I guess I kind of lied to them. But I told them, I was like, all right, I need you guys to sit down, get serious. If you know your creed or not, this is how I'm going to tell. And I gave them a test, like a quiz. And I was like, this is graded. No talking, you spread out. And I had like 25 minutes of silence and it was beautiful. And I was like, I can do this. It was my Zen and I felt awesome.
Cool.
Yeah.
I'm glad that you both shared really good stuff. And I love how, and I've noticed this with my supervision visits with the student teachers I supervise, that like there are these moments that it's just kind of like, you kind of like realize like, oh wow, that worked, yay. And it just like gives you that boost of confidence, but it also kind of brings like this feeling of like, I can do this, because I feel like sometimes as student teachers, you feel a little bit like down in a low spot. And so things like this really help you feel good. So great job. Thank you guys. Matt Snyder, I'm looking at you at the camera, even though I'm looking this way. You're up next, dude. I'm looking forward to it. March 7th. Can I see a nod or a yeehaw or something?
Yeehaw.
There you go. Thank you.
Have you noticed how Snyder always looks just pissed off on these meetings?
Yeah, he's very solemn. It's very, he definitely would scare me.
Don't be scary, Matt. Don't be scary. Don't be scary, Matt. We want happy Matt.
All right, so next up, I'm super excited because guess what? We actually get to see every single one of you in person on Friday. It's our first student-teacher seminar. It's the Job Prep Boot Camp. Super excited. I've locked in all our volunteers working on the schedule. I think you guys are going to have a really great experience on Friday. So I'm looking forward to seeing you and engaging with great conversation. But there are a few things that I need to go over, and then we need to take a little quick survey on some stuff, and then a few more slides, and we'll be wrapped up. We are at the Mountain View Country Club, which is in Boalsburg. Right there is the address. I will send an email probably tomorrow just with this information in it, so you can just maybe like plug and chug right into your GPS. We will start at 9 a.m. sharp, so make sure you're a little bit early so that you were raring to go at 9 o'clock. I sent an email out on, I believe it was Sunday, just to remind you that you had to upload your cover letter, resume, and the job description that you are writing the cover letter for into a Google Doc. And hopefully you saw that there was a folder for each person, and you uploaded it to your folder. I'm going to look at the screen now, and you can just like nod or shake your head. Has everyone seen that? Okay with that? Go good with that? Kayla's not moving.
She moved lips. I saw lips move.
Okay. Just make sure you do that. It does need to be done by noon tomorrow. I promised it to the volunteers by 5 o'clock tomorrow night. So they need some time to look over it and give you some feedback. So please make sure it's uploaded.
Hey, I want to make sure everybody understands like why the deadlines exist. It's not just some artificial, arbitrary number. We want you to have great feedback. Volunteers, we're not paying them. Give them at least 24 hours. I think y'all understand where we're going.
And along with that, just to be on the safe side, in case something goes completely wrong, bring a backup, bring a hard copy as a backup, please. If you can't get it printed, just let me know, but just please bring a hard copy with you. So this brings me to the last point. Are there any questions on any of those logistical items? Okay, I see no's. So next up.
Hey, one comment. Do make sure that you bring whatever digital device you may want to use. I'll be honest, I volunteer sometimes, say, oh, pull this out. And so since I've given you all an iPad mini, at least bring that. If you prefer using a laptop, bring whatever you want. There will be Wi-Fi at Mountain View.
Yeah, great point. Thank you. So next up, we all met the superintendent and assistant superintendent in January from Wayne Highlands. You probably have seen that job come out over the listserv. We've actually been in contact with, Wayne Highlands called us, and they would actually like to do some pre-interviewing on Friday with candidates who are interested. And so to be respectful of their time, and before we commit chunking out a section of time for them to come and do that, we need to make sure that they're going to be people that are interested in actually interviewing. So
this is not a public poll. If you're not comfortable with that, you need to let Dr. Ross know individually.
Right. Absolutely. I just need to know if you're interested. Shoot me an email, send me a text. I just need to know. If I do not hear from you, I'm assuming you are not interested in moving forward with any type of pre-interview or interested at all with Wayne Highlands.
So, Dr. Ross, did you get to talk to them?
I received an email back from the assistant superintendent, Mr. Morgan. Their phones were out or something because I could call and no one was picking up. So I shot him an email like, why are you not picking up? And so he said phones are out, snowy day, whatever, Northeast PA. So basically what they're looking for is each pre-interview will take about 20 minutes. And while maybe you haven't necessarily submitted any of your materials yet, they said if you bring the stuff completed, like I'm guessing the PA application is what he meant by application, your cover letter, your resume, you bring those documents completed with you, then that's fine. And they're actually also allowing any teacher that is existing teaching that would want to come and do it. They're also inviting them as well. So there might be a pool of people. They're just trying to get a feel because they really want an ag teacher and they really want the right ag teacher. So basically you need to let me know if you're interested. I can field some questions now, just general questions, whether you're interested or not. Just because you ask questions doesn't mean you're interested. You might just, if you need more information to make that decision, we can field those questions now.
Because I don't want you feeling like you're being put on the spot, but I need you to see, what do they think they're doing? I like uncovering and peeling an onion back. The school district thinks that they're making themselves more accessible to you to make it easier for you so that you don't have to drive all the way up there, and they're going to save you money and try to do it on the spot. That's their perspective. So it's not to get you, it's meant to be helpful. Depending on how many express interest depends on where Dr. Ross can slot them into the day. To be honest, if it's only one or two, might be over lunch. If it's more than that, or if the schedule doesn't fit that way, it'll be upon the completion of the pre-internship seminar. So if I remember the schedule, Dr. Ross, it'd probably start around 5 and be done by 6.
Yeah. Maybe stuff they don't need to know. I'm not sure. But he was hoping to maybe get it earlier in the day. And unfortunately, I'm being a little bit selfish and I'm not willing to give up too much of the seminar for it.
Oh, we have too many other volunteers. Yeah.
Yeah, but depending on how many we have, we could also actually do some maybe in the morning at like 8 a.m. Prior to the seminar. But it's all going to depend on how many people are interested in doing it.
So we're trying to accommodate a school district that we're going to support you as candidates to have access to opportunities and still fulfill the other preparation for all the other jobs that are open. That's what our job prep boot camp is all about. I think you're really going to enjoy it. So what questions do you have?
I'm looking at my screen.
I've talked to, I think it was Tim from Wayne Highland already, so I'm interested in interviewing.
Thanks, Michael.
Remember, I'm glad Michael shared. That's great. It's not bad, but you don't have to share. You just have to drop her an email separately because I don't want you feeling. Just want to make sure there's anything, everybody understand what's happening, feel good about what's going down.
I could maybe just use quick clarification. So would this be committal or non-committal to putting in an application?
Great question. No, I guess if you go through the pre-interview and you don't feel comfortable with it and you don't follow through putting your application in, that's probably signaling to them that you're not going to be interested in the first round of interviews that they're hoping to do late February. So
wanna
you're
add
not
to that.
committing to anything, actually. You're just,
I want to coach on this one a little bit. I want you to bring the materials they ask for to the pre-interview. If at the conclusion they reach out to you and ask for a second round of interviews and you're not interested because of the interaction, just simply say, I'm sorry, I'm withdrawing my packet this time. Thank you for the opportunity. Because I need to work hard to make sure that I keep communication clear on all parties so everybody's happy, okay? So
Okay.
the commitment is, Nate, if you want to keep this door open, you should do the pre-internship, pre-interview. Get all my words all messed up. You should do the pre-interview, and you should come to the pre-interview with the materials they've asked for. And honestly, I couldn't even tell you what those are, but I'm sure it's the same boilerplate stuff y'all are already developing.
Yeah, the stuff already developed, if that's very tailored to job X, then you would recommend bringing a second set to, for this opportunity, which would be like job Y.
Yes.
Yeah.
Just
And
because
for-
it's a matter of mutual respect. I wouldn't want them to jerk y'all's chain, and I don't want you jerking theirs. So
I guess another question on that then, I can't remember, I'd have to go back and look at it. Did it say that they wanted the letters of recommendation? Because if I was made, I don't know, I need to think about it and I'll talk to you guys, but would that wouldn't be an expectation to bring on Friday, I assume.
The coaching I would always give you on that, and this is great that y'all are asking because you can actually take these lessons and apply them to all kinds of jobs, is I would have my references, the names, and say letters can be provided upon request or pending. And that's all you would need, because I understand about wanting to give people heads up. So that's a good question, Kayla. Okay. That people want to work with you is when you show what I call due diligence, or, you're trying to.
and that's what he said too, is that you don't necessarily have to have everything compiled, that type of thing, but per se, but basically have them, like Dr. Foster just said, have the materials and show that you're trying and that you're working towards it, and you'll get that submitted. But yeah.
So can you believe it that the next time we meet will be March 7th? And I want to see who can identify, because you're smart people. Tell me why. Wait a minute, Foster. We do these meetings every 2 weeks. Why are we waiting until March 7th, which is a month away? Who can tell me first? I want to hear your voice.
Think hard. Come on.
What happens in 2 weeks, people?
I was going to say we meet on Friday, but I think that's the wrong answer.
Thanks for trying, Kayla.
National FFA week.
That is correct. And
Thank
so
you.
respecting and understanding that a lot of things are happening that week, it didn't seem like one more thing was needed. So that's a thumb that we bought out or, pushed off. And so we'll meet March 7th. Last pitch I've got to say, and then we're going to get off the phone because I want to keep that 6:30. That TLT symposium, dude, they just released the schedule. It's the Saturday after your symposium on Friday, or your second seminar on Friday. Y'all should really go if you can. I'm just got to tell you, it's there's free food you can eat up for the weekend, and it's Sir Ken Robinson. Hello. Even if you just came to see him and then bailed, you don't have to stay for the whole day. I won't run check. You don't have to, but I strongly recommend it.
Yeah, just make sure you capture those important dates again. I just removed stuff from last time. I think they're all there. Some things might maybe be tentative, but keep an eye on those. And then your teacher thought of the week, and I got this whenever I was looking up student motivation stuff, is that success is the sum of small efforts repeated day in and day out. And you will see those small efforts will eventually lead to bigger successes. And so keep doing good things. We're really proud of you. Looking forward to seeing you all on Friday. If you have questions about anything, Wayne Highlands, or what we're expecting of you on Friday, shoot us an email, let us know. But if not, we'll see you at 9 a.m. on Friday. Thanks for being here.
I appreciate seeing the waves. Bye. Oh, sure, I'll stay on. Everybody else is free to go. I feel bad that I kept you. It's my fault that we're 2 minutes over. Snyder, you still talking to us? You got questions?
Go ahead. Go ahead,
All right.
Matt.
What?
Go ahead.
I was just trying to figure out how to leave this meeting.
Oh,
So click that red word to say leave meeting.
I see that now.
Okay, have fun, buddy.
Yeah.
All right, Kayla.
I apologize for getting up like in the middle of this. I'm gonna miss one completely March 7th due to our LDEs, and our engine coaches are here, and they just had a really quick question of like, where's the gas? And it now smells like gas in here, so that's why I was like running over there really quickly. They're great. They're like living in their glory days, but I just like needed to check on them to make sure they're not gonna like blow up our shop. So just because like Jasmine was in the other room, and anyways, that's what that was. But that's not my question. I just thought you would find that funny that it smells like gas in the classroom now.
Don't lie to match.
No, I won't. Don't worry. Okay, so Wayne Highlands. I did not necessarily get the best, like, when I asked some questions and when they came and talked to us, there was just like some things that in their responses to our question, like made me really uncomfortable. But like the idea of us starting a new program and the idea of like, a lot of what they want is interesting to me. So I guess I just wanted like your thoughts and feedback on like, if they're going to be there, if there's other people interested, like would it be worth that 10, 15 minutes of time that they want to do? Like there's things of it that sound really interesting, but there's things that say like, ooh, like they're like little red flags that just like make me uncomfortable about some of the things they said.
Okay. So here's the deal. So, I'll talk now as a guy that's talked to a lot of schools, right?
Mm-hmm.
Here's the deal. They don't know what they want.
Right.
They don't know what they want besides a great ag program that everybody's been telling them is awesome.
Mm-hmm.
So the challenge and opportunities is that you